You did?
All right. In that case, we shall start a few lines earlier, so we know what this is about.
Friday, we started 7 lines from the bottom.
Yeah, okay, so then we go back a little bit. I found out that people are not with me, so that there's no point of me running, it's like locomotive leaving the train behind.
Without the wagons.
The wagons, right. All right, so we are on page Memtes, Ois Chavdalad, and we will start on the line, 5 lines from the beginning of the Ois. Of course, we already went through this. It should go more smoothly. What we are involved is trying to understand the principle of tzimtzum. And what is the principle of tzimtzum? Not how it happens, but what is the aim of it? Why is it there? What is the purpose of it? The purpose of tzimtzum is to bring down the oil that is rooted in etzem, in Ayin Seif, in the Ayin Seif. Ayin Seif and world do not correlate. World cannot grasp Ayin that's Ayin Seif. This is, we can elaborate, this is, I think, everyone should focus in on their own. Eventually, we'll be able to put some meat on it, some words to it, but right now this is sufficient. Ayin Seif and world do not correlate. In world, everything comes in some kind of a form, some kind of a breakdown in detail, and so forth. And therefore, in order that there should be a hamshacha from the Ayin Seif, from the sphirot agnusis into the world, there has to be a tzimtzum. And what is the tzimtzum effect? What is the accomplishment of tzimtzum? The tzimtzum limits the amount of oil that comes through, so that the Ayin Seif element of the oil vanishes, so to speak, nistalik, and therefore you can get a subset, a limited amount of the oil, and that can be mislabish in keilim in the world. This is the basic premise. So then, to this, the Rebbe asks, this sounds logic. However, this would make sense if we consider the sphirot agnusis as shoroshi hakeilim. Essentially, there's a keilim element, even though this is way up and it is completely pshitos, as we will see. Nonetheless, there's a keilim element, the keilim, a sense of a relation to keilim. Therefore, since it's relation to keilim, therefore there we can perceive the sense that the tzimtzum would remove some of the oil and would leave that oil which could be identified and defined by keilim. However, according to the principle that is accepted in this hemshech, in this mimer, and this is what's going to say, but according to what we explained here, that this is sphirot agnusis, this is the root for the oides. Let's address the word shoroshe. Like we said, Sheiros HaKeilim and Shoroshe Ho'eres. The principle of Shoroshe, the root, is that even though ultimately there is a world, and the world is a whole complete structure that follows its own parameters, such as you build a table. You cannot build a table according to your whim, according to your projection what a table is. The table has to be identified in such a way that you can actually put it into such concrete presence that you can take a piece of wood and make a table out of it. Wood does not exist in your mind. Your mind is only a concept. Yes, you can translate this concept to such a degree of reduction, such a degree of formality, that you can actually translate, and you can actually grasp this thing and present it in a physical, on a physical level, as a table. And the table consists of many parts. Like we said many times, the board and legs, and then the means of which they're connected, etc., etc., etc. So this is the keilim. What does shoroshe hakeilim mean? Root for keilim. Root for keilim is that this kind of the whole concept, even though it's being translated totally on a physical level, on moral level, this concept, and for us as a human being to be able to relate to this, to the physical table, and feel comfortable with it, there has to be conceptualized. It has to be something that we can actually relate deep down on the source to this concept, to this principle. There's a root in the nefesh, in the seichel, in the nefesh, a human conscience, that relates a physical table to the way he thinks, at the minimum. This is called shorosh.
The concept of shorish, not shorish ha'oros. Is that right?
Perfect.
I'm sorry, what?
This discussion is now to clarify shorish, not talking about shorosh ha'oros.
Right. This is to define the word, the meaning of the word shorish, and then there is shorosh hakeilim and shorosh ha'oros. But the principle of shorish, root, means that it is rooted in the very essence, all the way to the very reality of the human being, for example. A human being does not give up his personal self-ID when he sits by a table. On the contrary, it enhances it. It brings it out. Which means that there is some kind of a distant relationship, projection of table in the very nefesh of the person, of the human being. This is the meaning of shorish, and we said that there is shoroshe hakeilim, and there is also shoroshe ha'oros. Shoroshe hakeilim, we already discussed, we pointed out. Shoroshe ha'oros means the reduced sense as we said many times. The table itself, the whole concept of the table, in the human being, is perceived at a much higher level than the defined element of a table. The human being doesn't, in essence, there is not the definition of a table. That comes much, much later. What is contained in the human thought, in the human conception, in the human life element? As we said many times, the sense that there's a reality in life. What does reality mean? That I, as a human being, am here in this world, and I function and I act on the basis of something that has significance, not just survival.
And that's the origin of what later becomes table.
That's right.
But there's nothing more specific, there's nothing more defined than that.
Let's leave it.
Okay.
Here is a proposition. And I'd like each one of us to contemplate of this following question. We live in this world, and the world as we know it is very well developed. We have homes, we have streets, we have places for every particular activity, stores, whatever, whatnot, supplies. All this is taking
race cars.
All this is taking place here on earth. What if we would take all of that development and move it to Mars? They say on Mars that there is air. I don't know. Assume that we can artificially create oil. There is air, whatever it is. We pick everything up, we move to Mars. If this is possible, if this is feasible, so practically speaking, we should be able to practice our lives undisturbed and feel comfortable there. What does this proposition elicit in our mind? Are we kind of, is it exchangeable? Can we exchange the earth for Mars? Any opinion, any reaction? It's so far-fetched that we can't even think of it. But I want to point out a very simple thing. I, for one, I was born in Russia, in Moscow. I left Moscow when I was 8 years old. And left Moscow, and soon after I realized that we didn't leave Moscow in an amicable way. We ran away from Moscow because it was a murderous place.
It was what?
It was a disgusting place, a terrible place to live in for us. We lived on the duress, on the danger all the time. To the extent, at that age, I found out how evil that was, and I intentionally forgot Russian. I didn't forget it completely, but when I came out there, Russian was my mother tongue. Soon after, I couldn't even express my words because it was something which I detested. Okay, I detested the government and all that, but I still remember the house in which I grew up and the streets that I frequented. It was in central Moscow. And so the circus is right across the street. I mean, all these things I remember. And I still feel some kind of an affinity with that place. To such an extent that there's no other place in the world that I feel with the same affinity as I feel for that place. Isn't that amazing?
Nostalgia.
This is my reality. This is where I was born. Everything else.
Sorry, Paltiel?
Yes, sir.
You're saying there's no other place in the world you feel the same affinity as with Russia?
No. With the street, the house in which I was born.
Oh, the house in which you were born. Okay.
This is a reality. Everything else is what I was exposed to. I learned. I found out. It's something which came afterward. But this is everybody knows that your birthplace is something which has very special relationship, a very special place in your mind.
I could relate to this very, very much. I have many dreams with my house that we grew up in.
Okay, there you have. This is universal development.
So to go back to what you were saying before, going away from your house where you grew up is like going to Mars? Is that the idea?
Well, along these lines, I brought this out to explain that, as a matter of fact, that clearly I don't want to go back there. Never wanted to go back there, and my whole development, my adult life was all outside, and I was in Europe and America and so forth. And Baruch Hashem, I have no complaints. Nonetheless, this remains imprinted in my heart. This is an example for myself. I'm sure everyone has similar examples. Something that you detest, and yet it remains part of you. Why? Because this came to you. This is your reality. This is what's called reality. Coming to the question of moving out to Mars. If moving from Moscow to New York cannot be absolutely accomplished, cannot become, so to speak, totally unified, surely you move from Earth to Mars. This is not where you belong. Where do you belong? You belong in the place where God put you. Because that's a reality. You are a godly creation. Who you are is what God made you. God put you on earth. God put you on earth, which is not merely to facilitate your survival, but because this is where you belong, by godly decree. And this is where you have all your commands and godly commands and so forth. Therefore, this reality cannot be substituted by any other place, even though you can transfer conveniences and comforts over there. Convenience and comforts, that is on a much lower level than a personal orientation.
Why wouldn't you move as well Torah and mitzvot along with all these things?
You can move Torah mitzvahs, but this is where God put you.
Okay.
You can't move the laws of Eretz Yisrael to Mars. That doesn't work.
Okay.
What's on Nimshal? How do you get?
Okay, what was the point? The point is, this is the concept of shoyrish. Shoyrish is rooted in your reality. That cannot be uprooted. That cannot be substituted. That cannot be substituted. As a child, you crawl, and whatever it is. The essential orientation as to what your reality is, that comes with you wherever you go. So that when you sit at the table, it's the same person who had to be diapered is the same person sitting at the table. Within that state of being, the initial state of being, already was contained the root for a completely different set of rules. Such as when the baby is diapered, the baby cries because he wants a clean diaper. And the mommy puts him on a clean diaper, not only puts him on a clean diaper, but sings to him, gives him a little rock, and says, "Here, this could be, you'll feel comfortable here." And this comfort is what's translated later on sitting at the table.
to what?
This is what later on is translated in the comfort of sitting at the table. In other words, the world is real to you. It's a reality. It's not all, and therefore you can sit at the table and feel comfortable. This is called Shoroshi HaKeilim. Shoroshi HaOros. Shorosh means something that's rooted in the very essence, which one of it never severs from. Breaks from. So what we're saying here is this. The world was created, and it is totally dissimilar to what it was in Eretz Agnosis. Went through tzimtzumim and Talshot and all that. Nonetheless, there is a shortage for all that, all the way on top, all the way in the beginning. But it's called on Shoroshim, which is a far distant shortage. The similarity there is undetectable.
By keilim.
Huh?
By keilim.
It's both. Shoroshi HaKeilim, Shoroshi HaKeilim. This is what the Rebbe says. The Shoroshi HaKeilim, so we talk about Shoroshi HaKeilim, we can understand how there is the tzimtzum that will permit the sphirot agnosis to express themselves in keilim or sphirot. Whereas if we talk about sphirot agnosis, this is Shoroshi HaOros. Oros, that we don't understand how a tzimtzum can affect oros. This is the question. Okay, so at the end of the line that we started, 5 lines from the beginning of the verse. Ma shayach loimer k'mei v'hamosel.
Rabbi Paltiel, before you go on, you hear me?
I hear you, yeah.
What is the logical, or whatever, what is the reason, just to be clear, for saying, okay, we can understand tzimtzum affecting the Shorosh HaKeilim, we cannot understand it affecting Shorosh HaOros.
Okay, so let's look inside.
The reason for that is what we said before about oros.
Right.
That's what so what is the logic of that?
Okay, no logic. Just stay with me, okay? Stay with me. I'm looking inside now. Okay? לפי אמור כאן שהספיר הגנוז in שורשי הועירס. מה שייך לומר? How is it possible? What is it suitable to say? כמי במושל, as בהמושל, translate the same meaning as we had in the moshel of the Oasis. שבתחילו נושא האסכולה. But the Oasis originally it carried, it represented the Haskalah, the concept. Uksheni'frad ha'ois, and when the ois is separate, ein behab mehaskalah. Of the Haskalah there is nothing left. Only a fraction, only a small amount left of the Haskalah in the ois. This is how it is in the Moshe. Now we're trying to apply this Moshe to oiros, to sphirot agnosis as being the shorosh ha'oiros. And this is what our problem is. How is it possible to translate it in oiros? Me'achar, since she'akel hu bechinas ha'oi. Since that it is all the bechina of oir. Before the tzimtzum and after the tzimtzum, it's all the bechina of oir. And if it's bechinas ha'oir, how can we say that there is a small fraction of it left in the after the tzimtzum?
Why can't we say that?
Okay, but this we already discussed many times, because this is the 5th time that we started from this place. Because the principle of oil is that oil is always connected to its source. Oil is not a standalone entity, like keilim. Like we said before, you have a table, and they build a table from wood and it stands on its own, you lose connection to the concept. And that's possible in keilim. But oil always remains connected to the source. That's what oil is. And it's connected to the source. How can they say that as a result of the tzimtzum, there is just a fraction of what was there before left? Oil is oil. It's the reality of its source. This is the question here. Okay. I just elaborate a little bit to understand the question. To go into the details of that you'll have to pick up from previous classes. But the reason that oil is connected to the source, therefore it makes it universally, at whatever point you find oil, that there's the impact of the source on it. Therefore, how can tzimtzum affect it?
Others would say are immune to tzimtzum.
Oil is connected to the source. What does that mean? It means, as we said many, many times, that if you have a host and a guest,
Oh, come on.
you have a host and a guest, and no matter what is provided from the host or the guest, there is the element that the presence of the host himself. That does not change. The first time we learned this, we gave the following illustration. You're at the wedding, and there's a reality to this, to your presence at the wedding. You're invited by the host. And then, at the wedding, there are hundreds of people who are equally related to the host. Is that then reduce your connection to the reality of what's happening?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're sharing it with others?
Right. It did seem like there was also the inner circle, so that would sort of imply tzimtzum affects light, or categorically no.
At whatever circle you are, if you share it, if there's tzimtzum, you have to share with others, it doesn't reduce it. If you are an inner circle, so it's the same thing.
Fine.
If you're a brother amongst 20 brothers, you're still a brother.
It's relative.
Right. Point being that tzimtzum will not affect others.
That's right. Because oil relay refers back to the source. Although, surely he won't be able to spend as much time with you as if you were alone. That's already the keilim. That's a means by which you communicate. But the presence itself, the oil, that's the same. Baruch. Hello?
Yes, you're speaking to me?
Yeah. Is it clear?
Yep.
Baruch Hashem.
It's getting there.
Okay, Baruch Hashem. because I interrupted you. I said, if you hold on, this is all This is the fifth time we are visiting this, and we constantly, finally have to reach the point, okay? Therefore, how can there be of the left of the oil less than the oil? Because oil is always always connected to the source. And here's where we really are up to. This is where we should have started, maybe even later, further down. However, the Iyar is the Hina Yodua, for it is known the Be'oir Yesh Pnimis Chitzenius, that in oil, even in oil, there is the element of Pnimius and Chitzenius. Both Pnimius and Chitzenius qualify as oil, and yet there's a fundamental difference. This is Pnimius and Chitzenius. So how does that help us in this dilemma? So this is going to be the other bit now. Ukmoi Kain, just as in oil, on a functioning level, there's Pnimius and Chitzenius. Likewise, at the very inception, in the root of orots, Yesh Gam Kain Bechinas Pnimius Chitzenius. This is a phenomenal statement, and as we already discussed, it is really extremely elusive. When you say that the Soroshi Ha'oires, there is Pnimius Chitzenius, Soroshi Ha'oires, this is the answer. This is because that's what oiros come from the essence. The Soroshi Ha'oires, there is also Pnimius Chitzenius. And this is kind of a shocking statement. And the Rebbe explains to the extent possible. He says like, the Hagam, for although Shehein Bibchinas Pshitus, although that the orots are Bibchinas Pshitus. The concept of Pshitus we already elaborate, quite extensively and quite satisfactorily. Pshitus means there is not a break from the etzem to the oil. It is totally represented in a smooth line how the oil comes from the etzem. Like we gave the example that if you own a home and you step into your home for the first time, how long does it take for your presence to so to speak, encompass the whole home? Does it take any time at all? And does it make a difference how large the home is? Do you understand what the implication is? This is the meaning of oil. And the oil comes b'pshitus from the etzem. There's nothing that needs to be translated, emanating. You are in the home, you're automatically everywhere. Automatically everywhere. I'm just here. Your oil, your presence, the fact that you're the owner of the home is there automatically. And there's no time consumption whatsoever. You're not sooner at the doorstep than in the end of the house or the bedroom. This was Hagam, I'm repeating the words again, Shehei b'bchinas pshitus, even though that the orots are b'bchinas pshitus. She's a pshitus, so what is has to divide to identify different levels in oil? Pnimius, Chitzenius is all b'bchinas pshitus. It's all representative of the etzem. And it is etzem in the oil form. However, nevertheless, everything that is present in the hisgalus level of the oil exists also in the very root of the soil, which is the way the oil is in the etzem. Everything that is present in his galus of the oil is present in the Shirish Mokim. As it explained elsewhere. Therefore, since that in the revealed oils, there is Pnimis Chitzonius, it is therefore imperative to say that likewise it is also in the source of the oils. Source of the oils is the way the oils are contained within the etzem. Giluyim is how the oil is recognized outside of the etzem. In our model of the house, there is a human being. A human being, by definition, has the capability of owning a house. Not only has the capability, but it's imperative he has to own the house. All the machine Beis in the order. It's a smooth connection.
Being a man is harder for some people than others.
It's a smooth connection. We recognize that there are two stages in this. There's the way it is in the human being. But all machine Beis is connected to him. He, by definition, has to have a home. He doesn't have a home. He has to have a home. In the order. He has a home without having it. Because he has the right to be in this world. He has the duty to be here, and therefore he has a home without knowing it, without having it, practically speaking. This is the definition of a human being. Hashem created a human being, brought into this world. By virtue of that creation, by virtue of that command and that mission, he has a home. By virtue of who he is. This is how this Inyan is contained within the human being himself. The Shirish. Then when he actually acquires a home, and he steps into the home, this is the Gilui of that reality. This is nothing new. This is the same human being. In this Gilui phenomenon, there is Pnimis and Chitzonius. And the Rebbe is saying, if in the Pnimi, in the Gilui phenomenon, there is Pnimis and Chitzonius, at the source there is also Pnimis and Chitzonius. Even though the source is mamash, the human being himself. But it's imperative. If it is there in the Gilui, anything that is there in the Gilui is present in the source, in the earth. We already, discussed this in the Gilui and so forth. I'm going to go into it. I just want to finish this one point. If it is there in the Gilui, it is there in the source. And this is what we spent a whole shiur on at, to point out that the Rebbe is telling you. But I'm going to explain to you now. Is not something that you can conceptualize. If you could, I would have gone directly and explained it to you. I cannot express it in words. I'm just telling you. Think about this.
What is the thing that the Rebbe is telling us can't be directly expressed?
That there is pnimis chitzonius in the shayrish.
Sorry, I missed the statement that there is what?
Pnimis and chitzonius in the shayrish, in the root, within the yatzim. And the only way I can present it to you is by pointing to the fact that there is pnimis chitzonius in the gilui. Now, you ought to reflect in your own mind, if it is pnimis chitzonius in the gilui, there has to be pnimis chitzonius. Behechel that is pnimis chitzonius in the essence, in the source. And that is, in a sense, the Rebbe's hint that I'm telling you something that cannot be explained or elaborated on, put out in words. You will know it if you put your own truth into it. We pointed this out way back when we first came to this line. The Rebbe says it is all it's all bechinas oyer. How can the pnimis chitzonius? Yet still, it's imperative to say that there is pnimis chitzonius. Why? Because we see pnimis chitzonius in Gilui. How is that imperative? This is Gilui, this is the in essence, in the source. Because everything that is present in the Giluyim is present in the source. This is a principle that we ought to, so to speak, and the Rebbe tells you, this is something which you ought to recognize in your own seichel. And if you recognize in your own seichel, then you'll be able to recognize in your seichel pnimis chitzonius at the inception, the source of everything. So here is what we initially presented in the sense of recognizing pnimis chitzonius on the Giluyim level. On the Giluyim level.
Can I sort of open up a window?
Or about air conditioning.
Just fine.
Do we have AC here?
The big one, the big control, the large
I
one.
think it's going to run with
What about the statement en od milvado? En od milvado.
That's right.
What about that statement? Because en od milvado sort of contradicts Pneumium.
No, it does not. No, this is oil.
What? About everything.
Okay, it's opening. Good. Open its mouth. Okay. If there is pnimis chitzonius at the functioning level, there has to be behechrech that there is pnimis chitzonius at the inception on the root level. So, under his galus, you should be able to identify the pnimis chitzonius. As we did, for example, said the house, the home, is something which is a human truth. important to understand this principle. Odom shein lebayis ein yom. As we said before, he has a home whether he knows about it or not. He has a place, he has a right to be in this world and having a home. Whether he identified with it, whether he has it, physically speaking, that doesn't change the reality of his presence in the world. Like we said in the sense originally in today, this cannot be transferred to Mars. His home is here on this earth because that's what David put him. That's where he has his reality. This is a home. This is not convenience, comfort, service. This is reality. Odom shein lebayis ein yom.
This is Gilui level?
I'm coming to it. So this is Gilui level. So this house, when a person owns a house, what happens the next step after he acquires a house? We said the next step is he furnishes it. These furnishings are clearly a defining factor of the human presence in the house. But this is chitzonius relative to having the home. Although that also comes bipshitus. Nonetheless, it's chitzonius relative to having a home. Having a home is imperative by definition what a human being is. Furnishings it can be interpreted as also a human necessity, but that's on the lower level, on the comfort level, which is also human. Only a human being has the necessity and has the right for comfort. Nonetheless, this is chitzonius relative to having a home. Then we had even a further down illustration of this concept, which was discussed in Chazorah this morning. In the home, you have a table, which is a necessity in the home. Then you have a tablecloth on top of the table. Tablecloth is also part of the design of a home. And tablecloth is also rooted in the human being. You don't put a tablecloth to cover the table, put a tablecloth to present the table to the human being. This is how you relate to the table. Nonetheless, there is a big difference between the tablecloth, the imperative aspect of the tablecloth, and the table. All this is pnimis chitzonius in the Giluyim level. This we see. If there is in Giluyim pnimis chitzonius, there is in the inception, in the very essence of this oil, also these distinctions. This is what we say. Okay, go inside now. It is therefore imperative to say that it is similar, that it is likewise in social keilim, in the root and the source of the orots, because it is there in chitzonius, in Gilui. And therefore, since we identified two aspects in oil, pnimius and chitzonius, as a result of that, shayach loimer, therefore it becomes applicable. It is possible now to express this thought. Shebiyisal, this kulam, yacha, kulam, that when all the areas are united together, like in Yesod Sphirot Agnos Hoya, Bahem Oyer Naila Yesod. Then there was illuminating, there was presence there, Oyer Naila Yesod, a higher oil. Hainu, what does it mean a higher oil? It's all oil. But now we have a means to address that. And that is, Hainu, it means, Bechinas Oyer Pnimi Yesod. When they're all together, there was a Bechina of Oyer Pnimi Yesod, an oil that is more internal, more closer to the essence. Even though all oils are connected to the essence. This is the point of this inyan, and the Rebbe says that this whole inyan that there is pnimi and chitzoni in essence is not something I'm going to elaborate. I'm just going to make a statement that you recognize there is pnimi and chitzoni in the Giluim, therefore it's imperative that there is pnimi and chitzoni in the essence, in the source. As a result of this recognition, of this presentation, therefore we could say that how tzimtzum affects the Iyar. Tzimtzum affects the Iyar, that's a result of tzimtzum, b'tad tzimtzum, prior to tzimtzum. When all the orots were together, we had the oil pnimi yosef, a more pnimi yosef, and then as a result of tzimtzum, it's an oil that's more chitzoni. It's still oil. Still a one with the answer. If it's not that's why it's not oil. So in this,
as a result of the tzimtzum, there's or tzoni yoser.
No, as a result of the tzimtzum, there's chitzoni. Therefore, there is before the tzimtzum, the air pnimi yoser, it's more pnimi. Then the tzimtzum brings out a no chitzoni.
I thought the whole point was the opposite, that irrespective of tzimtzum, there's be'etzem, chitzoni and pnimi.
That's right.
Okay.
The tzimtzum shows how it is begilui, and therefore it has to be in essence also.
What's the precise meaning of yoser?
Yoser more.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
More.
Just to clarify, you're sort of using these terms interchangeably. I just want to clarify. So sometimes you're saying, so that's how it has to be in the shorosh ha'oros, and sometimes you're saying, so that's how it has to be in the etzem.
Same
Shorosh
thing.
ha'oros
It's the same thing.
Same thing?
Right. Shorosh, you explained, what is shorosh ha'oros? Shorosh ha'oros is how the oros are included in the etzem.
Mm-hmm. So even in etzem there is pnimius and chitzonius.
No, we're talking about the oil that's included in the etzem. Shorosh ha'oros.
Okay, so that's what I'm asking. This is still different from etzem.
Oh yeah. We're talking about oil in the etzem.
Oil in the etzem. Okay, none of this is to imply that there's pnimius and chitzonius in the etzem itself.
No.
Oh no, okay. Just I wanted to clarify.
You got it.
Doesn't that tzimtzum take us from like the essence state to the gilui state?
What?
Doesn't the tzimtzum like take us from the like how it's included in the essence state to the gilui state?
Yes. But what is it Megala? That which is there before.
Right, that's what we were saying. So then the question was then how could it be that there's
How can you say
reduction.
that in the essence there is pnimis and chitzonius?
But the original question that we're using this to answer is how could we say that there's reduction?
How can you say that the tzimtzum affects the oil the way it is in the shoulders? It's the shoulders, it's one thing with the source.
So now so you say because it's still or, so then how could it? So now the answer then is that since there's a chitzonius and pnimis in the shortish,
There has to be pnimis and chitzonius in the shoulders.
So then how does that answer then how the original question of how you could say that they could affect the orots in the shortish in order to make
Because even in the shoulders there is pnimis and chitzonius. So the effect is that before there was a tzimtzum, the oil that was contained in the sphirot was a higher oil, so not pnimi. And then when there was a tzimtzum, when they broke up the sphirot individually, there was a whole oil, and there's oil chitzonius.
So it's still the same way, it's still connected with its source.
All
but
connected
it's
to the source,
still-
because you're talking about it.
but it's a different type of quality of oil. But it's still connected with its source.
Is it like the focus is the chitzoni after the tzimtzum? There's both after the tzimtzum, but the focus is the chitzoni. And the focus before is the pnimi.
Explain to me what you're aiming to express.
I'm aiming to express, are we saying that there's not pnimius after the tzimtzum, or there's both? It's just the main thing is the chitzonius, the aspect of the or not.
The effect of the tzimtzum is that it is that then you have the chitzoni element of the oil, and that this is how that change enables it to come into the world. If you had the pnimi, there would be no world.
I thought we were saying both before and after you have both chitzoni and pnimi. Originally, I thought.
No, okay. And you have chitzoni and pnimi later on, but they are in giluyim. The pnimi is also giluyim. It's also chitzoni relative to the way it is in essence. Like I say, a table is a chitzoni that you think. But relative to a tablecloth, it is a pnimi.
Was the original question the keilim other tzimtzum affects the orots? Was that original question before we started with?
What
The
again?
tzimtzum affects the orots. There was it
Orots,
was a question,
orot.
right? How does the tzimtzum affect the orot?
Right.
So isn't it that we've been saying many times that it's the amount of ore. If it decreases the ore, it seems to.
That's exactly the question. If this is pnimi, this is oil, is always connected to the source, so what does it mean it decreases the oil? Oil is always representing the source, the essence. I can give you an example. You have a simcha, you have the chosn. And there are 100 people, 1,000 people. That's the chosn becomes less of a chosn because there are 1,000 people. To you,
there's some kind of element that decreases the light, so because it seems to make keilim, right?
no, we're not talking about keilim, we're talking about in oils right now.
But the tzimtzum is not representing also of keilim.
Yes, it is, but right now we're focusing on the oil element. How is the tzimtzum affect the oils? So we're saying the effect on the oils is not because in the oils there's pnimi is on the oil and the chitzoni is on it. And before the tzimtzum, there was in the as a sphirot there was an oil pnimi yosef. After the tzimtzum there is a mochi oil chitzoni.
With a moment ago with Baruch, a distinction was made between etzem and orots.
Right.
Okay.
All right, gentlemen. I'm going to leave it to you devices now.
Dangerous, dangerous.
Couldn't talk about